So, welcome to my workshop. I'm going to go through the process of what I do in this workshop when I'm painting. For me, it's a process in a sense of unpeeling from a blank canvas to find the image. It's all about an image deep within the canvas for me. So it's trying to find something sculptural, three-dimensional, in a two-dimensional image. But because I work from music, I'm also interested in the idea of creating a four-dimensional image, a kind of space-time, which maybe in a school physics lab you could see in a cloud chamber where you can actually watch nuclear particles enter a space, and if you think of the brushstroke as the nuclear particle of a painting, then you're building up a series of events. That's in very simplistic early nuclear physics. I would like to start the music.
So we'll then go through that process and then move to the canvas. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start the music, which is from Olivier Messiaen's Quartet for the End of Time. It's the Louange for the cello, it's a very slow, meditative piece of music, composed in a prison camp.
So does it start with the music then, as you say? Do you select the music? How do you almost find the music, and how does that inspire you then to move to the canvas almost?
Right. So I like the music, if possible, to replay on repeat. In this case, I may have to, when it gets near the end, which obviously I know really well, I will take it back into the beginning again. So it's a circle,
and that then takes you into
the whole atmosphere, the whole four-dimensional atmosphere, really.
Okay. So you're then immersed almost in the. Absolutely. And you're then the vehicle almost of the music onto the canvas.
Yes.
The conduit, maybe.
And in my very simplistic violin practice, I'm also trying to imagine that kind of physicality in the process as well.
Okay.
And as you can hear, they're very slow bow strokes. At the beginning, I use large brushes. This one's not particularly large, but I want also to have some control over detail, which is why it's not very large. Also, the idea of the long stick is so in a sense I have less control, because then I feel freer.
You know, every artist obviously approaches things in different ways, and some like that detail control probably.
Yes, and of course towards the end of a painting you need that. You know, I have got here what my mother used to use all the time, a marling stick where you can actually rest your
support
hand on.
As you go through.
Yeah. But I'm a long way from that at this point. And I'm trying to keep the paint as thin as possible,
Okay.
because without it dripping too much, so that it doesn't build up too thick a paint which doesn't dry. If it's thin enough when I start, then I can make brush strokes on top.
And these are oils?
No,
sort of-
they're acrylic at this
Acrylic.
stage.
Yeah.
Oils happen at a very late stage when I've done all the underpainting in acrylic, which dries fast and I can cover fast. I can, with acrylic, I can be painting in black now, and I could take the canvas completely back to white again by going in with white. And I'm only using black and white emulsion at the moment.
Yeah. What are you feeling, Barry, as you go through this?
It's more of a physical feeling, really, and watching the kind of mark that is being made on the canvas. You know, with obviously the paint running out on the brush, you can get all kinds of really minimal marks by the way the brush is behaving, and depending on how much paint you've loaded on the brush.
So as you say, so the intention also is that it isn't always a fully loaded brush. It's a
Exactly.
part of that experience, as you say, that when you apply initially, there's quite a lot on the canvas, but then gradually you almost lose.
And sometimes I want the paint, you know, especially later on, I want the paint impasto, so it will be very, very thick lumps of paint.
Okay. And has your style, has it changed over the years from when you were at the Royal Academy and
Oh yes,
the focus?
if you look at a canvas, very early canvas like that small one over there, you'll see that I used to pencil in the composition and then fill in.
okay.
So
it wasn't
really
blank, it was
painting in the sense that I am now. It was it was a question of almost, I suppose, painting, filling in by numbers. You know, it was, and of course that's the way my mother worked on her pub signs. She did an initial design. She then marked it up with verticals and horizontals and all the rest of it, and then did the same with the big 6-foot one she was working on. It's a completely different. This for me is all about finding. It's about finding.
It's an exploration as well, then, as you say.
Finding the image within the canvas, within myself. My mind, you know, because I had that whole intense relationship with Cubism. I see the tradition of contemporary painting as going back to Cézanne, where he had his famous mountain in front of him, and the image came in his eye, went through his nervous system, and then came out as his structural imposition on the canvas of what he saw, trying to break the what he saw in the landscape into simple structures, which led to Cubism, because he talked about breaking it into the cylinder, the cone, and the simple geometric structures. And so, you know, you can see that's what happened in Cubist paintings later on.
And does it, can I ask, does it change every time? If you listen to this piece of music, does it change if you canvas-wise, as in, does the image change?
Oh yes, it's never.
So it's never the same image, even though you listen to the same.
Because what's going through my head can change enormously.
That's interesting, because you'd have thought, I guess some people, you almost get into a routine. You hear something and you maybe reflect or act in a certain way because it. But it's interesting that actually then can manifest itself
my mind
differently.
Doesn't work like that. It's probably I probably suffer from attention deficiency, because actually my mind just is continually travelling to different places.
And almost tunes in at one point at one time when you get that on and you're there with the canvas, which will be different to
absolutely
another time.
And listening to a piece of music, that definitely happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interestingly, the cello in the original performance only had 3 strings. It didn't have a bottom string, so it's the piece is playable on the violin, because it goes from G sharp on the violin up to E, 21 notes, and during the course of the piece it plays all the 21 notes of the chromatic scale from G sharp up to E. Another thing I'm playing with here in this series of work is a very simple cycladic image, which is the violin image, and it looks like this. And there's many cycladic sculptures which look like this.
How does that feel when is it the rhythm? Is it the movement? Is it what translate? I can only do that when I think about doing other things. I do like things that have a rhythm, almost a rhythm, whether you're sometimes driving or doing other things. There's something, you become at one with something, don't you?
Yeah, and
the flow and the movement.
That's why I've actually called this series after the name of this piece, because my sense of rhythm is definitely lacking in me. It's probably why I'm a painter. And so people who are trying to teach me to learn a musical instrument are getting me trying to be able to count, to be able to get to feel that inner rhythm, especially in a slow piece like this. And I have found that really, really difficult.
But maybe quite therapeutic, perhaps, then.
Yes, I think very.
That's sort of testing your normal...
But precisely, and that's why...
Stretching you a little bit, maybe.
I'm 78 in November, and since I was 66, I've been trying to learn the violin, and it's not easy. Yeah. So here you have quite a
I'm trying to follow
truncated violin figure.
I know when I was learning the violin, I was in the end condemned to the garage to practice.
Yeah, well, I am too. This is my place of condemnation. That is true. Or I have to mute it in the house.
All right.
And also, all the time I'm playing, which of course the original Parian sculptures were as well. I'm playing with the goddess image, definitely. It's which is a deep tradition in art. Yeah, so that's the other aspect to it. This is the final E, top E.
Okay. So is that a good time maybe to move to the next canvas, do you think, Barry, or not? Or do you want to do a bit more?
Yes, no, that's fine. If that's...
Well, we've got a bit of that introduction and then maybe...
Yeah, really good point.
We'll move then to the next canvas, or the development of the canvas.
Yeah.
Which is the one we've now got in position.
Yeah.
But,
let's go.
Okay, so you're comfortable. So maybe you'll, as you say, you'll take us through once you've mixed.
Right. So.
And tell us how you transition then from one canvas to the other.
Right. Well, this is a much more detailed process. I mean, the image is at the moment quite firmly established on the canvas, and I think one of my limitations as a painter is that I am when I get to this stage I am very I don't have a great ability to completely paint something out and paint again. There was when I was in North Wales, there was a very established painter called Victor Neep, who taught in Rochdale College of Art, and he used to, with his students, he would go up to their work and say, "That's a very nice area, paint it out." So it's having the courage to paint out something you really like. You could paint it all out, and or maybe cover it but leave bits, which is, in a sense, what I would be doing there. If you imagine all the surrounding area of that, and I gradually paint it out, but I leave something showing through. That is the kind of way I'm trying to, and
then on the canvas we have behind you Do we then see? It looks like we can see the outline of the violin as we had on the other, and how you've then developed.
Yes. So just to point that out, the original, in quite a late stage, I have brought the original Cycladic image back in there, and it then goes, it then goes out there, round there, round there, round there.
So it's changed a little bit,
down.
Do you think, as you've worked on it?
Yes, because everything else before I put that in didn't have this in, so it was a much more female image, really. And I've just taken, I tried to develop that quite. Where am I going now? That quite simplistic image back in again, just to have a sense of what that simple Cycladic form, which is so simple.
Does that help to sort of ground the picture, maybe, does it? Or does it keep you, do you need something that keeps you, I don't know, as it develops, I guess it can go down certain avenues and route. Do you need a starting point almost, or go back to that original?
Yes, that's part of it, or maybe it's part of the unpeeling, that is a layer which was in the canvas and I'm finding it again.
Right.
That's an interesting, that's obviously reversing the whole mental and physical process of it. Because, I've ended up here with a very busy image,
yes.
Which I'm about to in a small way at the moment, because I'm interested in this business of End of Time, both musically and for the planet and all the rest of it. I'm just going to explore that to see what happens, but maybe just in quite a minimal way.
And how many hours has this taken so far, Barry?
Oh,
just to give an idea, because I know, as you say,
days,
okay.
But I couldn't quantify hours because some of it's quite meditative, and I'm not actually putting paint on the canvas at all.
So do you sometimes come in and just sit and look and contemplate and reflect?
Very definitely.
So it isn't in and, like a whirlwind almost, or a continuous activity.
No, that's an interesting point.
You can reflect and almost.
That's an interesting point you said there, because a well-known female composer who's still alive was I've forgotten her name at the minute, was on the radio the other day, and she was, which is exactly how I feel. She was describing in modern life. She was asked whether she has a routine and composes every day, and she said no, because I lead a modern life where there are many things that I have to do. Of all kinds of things. It goes with the day and what she's, what is happening in the day, and then she finds the space. That's the way it works with me.
And does yoga or meditation or other things help to?
I think so, and
to ground and almost help you into the.
Especially if you're like me and you've got far too many things going through your head, which distract you all the time from the task, of the present. Bringing myself back to the you're absolutely right there. yeah, a really important part of it. And yeah.
And it's interesting, in your studio, you don't necessarily have lots of other things. You have your artwork, so maybe it is, as you say, that you're immersing yourself in
That's interesting.
your journey and activity, because you could quite easily be surrounded by lots of other things on the wall potentially, couldn't you? But
I have a stack of books there, which in another studio I had on shelves. I don't want shelves in here. I like the empty space.
Yeah.
Graham Burgess, when he was he was designing this, he was imagining that I would keep canvases in this top space. Or I don't want that. I know this is cluttered, but I want space around me. Somehow this is
Clean.
not a cluttered space for me. You can obviously see it is quite cluttered, but
it has an order, I'm sure. Exactly.
yeah, it's that is true. Everything has its place somehow.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I've
No,
probably held you up a little bit around.
This is a really important discussion.
Well, it's interesting, because you say that it's that busy life, it's the busy environment that we're all in. How do you find your time, your space to do the things? And probably same as other people, they all find a different route. In your case, you need that space to enable you to continue with your work here and get yourself back into the way that you perhaps originally envisaged. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
When you approach it on different days, does it go a different?
Exactly.
Does it go down a different route?
Yeah.
Is there something additional that you?
I never imagined that I was about to go into red today.
It's a red.
But I did. I thought about it yesterday, but I didn't actually think I was going to do it. So yes, that was really difficult. Yeah, that's true.
It's exciting.
Okay.
What do those marks say to you, Barry? Is it hope? Is it?
That's a really interesting, that's a perfect question to ask me. With the Ukrainian project I'm working on, the Ukrainians, we're working with 7 Ukrainian artists. 2 of them are actually in Ukraine, and one of them is in Kyiv. And when they met with Karen Campagna, who went out to Rabka in Poland, which is our twin town, with the exhibition. She met them out there, and they said to her that continuing our project, which was originally on the subject of vocabulary of war, that they wanted something different. And what we finally agreed upon is vocabulary of hope. And so your use of the word hope is really interesting. Yes. Another thing I've been looking at in the last couple of days is that there is Orthodox Church, let's put it like that, in the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which is a figure of a female shield, which is a kind of symbol of hope, of protection and hope. And yes, no, you picked up on something in me somewhere from those marks that, yes, I am. Yeah, it's because for people working actively in the environmental field, like both of you, the thing is to have some hope that the demise of our planet and all the rest of it can be avoided. So yes, I think that thing of hope is incredibly important. Incredibly important.
Yes. Yeah.
I will just point out something in this canvas. Pianist, I have very vaguely sketched in here. If this is the cellist, this kind of figure here, then this is the pianist. So I'm trying to maintain that in some kind of way.
Some of those musicians, have they ever seen your artwork?
And interestingly, I had a friend of mine, Morag McLaren, who runs Cooper Hall in Frome. She was looking at my Rambert work from the Rambert Dance Company from 1975 through till 84. And she was saying, have you shown this work to contemporary Rambert?
Well, and
I hadn't thought of that.
And as you say, and it's almost then, but that helps with other people having a different lens on your work. Yeah, exactly. And what you do, because you're immersed, is actually looking the other way. You were inspired by. Yeah. Did they realise that they inspired you?
Yeah.
So you then could share something the other way,
All that time ago with top composers. Harrison Birtwistle, for instance, his work features in a lot of those drawings.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's very true.
It's an interesting route of turning it.
Yeah.
It's a bit like unpeeling, but it's unpeeling in a different way.
Precisely.
It's going from art back to the source, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's maybe a bit of a circular, in this case, a slightly different circular economy, but quite an interesting.
I
Who
was,
creates and how that starts that chain of events, and then how you close the loop by sharing that back with the originator and the creator.
I'll stop it there. Yeah, and I was also going to say, because this is Olivier Messiaen, he wrote a piece shortly after he composed Quartet for the End of Time called the Turangulila Symphony. It's a massive symphony. And Turangulila actually means time that runs like a galloping horse. And that, in a sense, is the physical fact of our being. Is that we are just travelling through time in our lifetimes.
And we're all on different journeys and have different influences.
It's an amazing symphony. It embraces everything. It embraces everything.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how then do we? So where does this canvas end up in the end? When do you know? When do you know there's an end? When do you know how to stop?
Yeah, you know.
Do you know? Does it come to you?
Well,
as part
yes,
of...
yeah. Eventually, yes, you have to push it to the end. Yeah.
But do you know when you come in the studio maybe one day and you think, actually, that's
it may not happen like that. It might happen much more that I can actually be working on the canvas and thinking, I shouldn't do any more to this. But the great danger with me is I just make them busier and busier, which is why this 7x5 canvas, why I want to try and aim towards the simplicity that I achieved in this monumental 7 by 5 foot canvas. Because I can see from my recent exhibition, amongst all those busy Cubist-inspired paintings, that actually this had something which stood out. Yeah, so I'm thinking about that anyway.
Well, and I guess from a personal point of view, what we do with the Climate Film Festival and others, I mean, something that's very symbolic that people can unite around and can inspire them. We talked about making things more visible.
Yeah.
But an image or something that relates to, which could be Mother Earth, however and whatever that, which is simple that people get. Look at the Angel of the North, and you look at some of these other iconic. Everybody knows. Everybody, it's that would be interesting if you're peeling it back to that level, almost. Yeah. Not a basic level, but a very I don't know, symbolic or a.
And then it has all this kind of chaos of life behind it.
Yes. But you have a very clear take on
it that much that it's come back. If it's an orange, you've unpeeled it, and then but you're doing it the other way.
The other way around. Or if it's an onion, you're probably crying as you're doing it. But at least you're going back to the essentials or what it's really about. And maybe that's the other thing, as you say, it's actually what life is really about. You get back to the centre of it and you strip away the non-essentials.
Beautiful.
What is important? What is, and I think, this whole, what I've enjoyed as part of this process in the film is the creative bit.
Yeah.
It's people creating is what it's all about, I think. Because without creators, you have nothing.
No, you don't.
You literally have nothing.
I think you both as artists also have that need to kind of engage in your work in a not just in a recording sense, but in actually creatively saying something. And investing thought, concept into things.
Yeah, and it's having that time and space, isn't it? I mean, that's probably, we probably all have those frustrations of how do you find the time to have the outlet to realise your potential or your creative side.
Yes.
Which sometimes people never find because of life.
Absolutely. I mean, that is so true. And very few people achieve it. I mean, if I was going to choose people in tradition who I look towards in music, it would be probably Beethoven. And in the total, not in individual pieces, but in his total life's output, I would, in contemporary terms, in painting, I would look to Picasso, because I think that he did many things in his life, but there's a kind of focus ethically and as painter, as inventor. His whole life's work is a masterpiece. His whole, you have to look at, and probably the same with Beethoven. But that's probably being a bit pretentious, but that's how I see it. I'm looking towards monumental expression, I think.
Yes, it's there's something about size and scale as well I like. I mean, when I saw the Kelpies up near Stirling, that is, the horses, which have you ever seen those?
No.
I'll show you some pictures afterwards.
They're called Kelpies.
It's the Kelpies, but the size and scale, they must be 300 feet tall.
Yeah.
Stainless steel horses.
Wonderful.
Head. Absolutely.
No, that's
now. Why can't we do that for, as you say, maybe, you know, what you're creating, or from a climate symbol or something to get people?
Yes.
Why do we not make that more visible?
That's a really interesting subject, I think. And I wonder in my own lifetime whether the fact that my mother, who went to the Royal Academy in 1932, very unusual for a woman, then I think in some ways she could have become from that, because she had all the to become a very contemporary painter, but she went down the route of painting 29 pub signs for St Austell Brewery in Cornwall, and they were big. They were 6 foot tall. You know, they were up here, and so maybe that kind of ambition has always been there with me, but I didn't start to paint. Maybe I was quite intimidated by that, and I didn't start to draw or anything really until I was 23 or so, and I was doing philosophy in Bangor, and I started drawing these Picasso-esque drawings in my philosophy notes. Probably known in Frome more as a sculptor, but I'm not a sculptor. I've involved people in massive sculptural projects, so which have been very important to me. But actually, I'm a painter. Yes, and I find working, as you can see in my, I've got small canvases, but it's not quite the same as being physically involved in a canvas where you're immersed, and that's so it becomes a 3-dimensional and 4-dimensional experience.
As we draw this to a conclusion, what would you, as part of your, not a legacy, but your knowledge and your experience, how would you approach or discuss with?
I think more than anything else, I say to people who are on the pathway to being artists, it's actually creating that rhythm. So if you're in a busy working life, which most young artists, it's finding a space to do it in. That is key, I think.
But that's a mental space as well as a physical space.
Well, yes, a physical space, and it could be very small, of course. I mean, there's plenty of artists working in very small, but it's having a space where you can leave your stuff out and all the rest of it. And then it's the rhythm of doing it, whether it's once a day, once a week, once a month, whatever. There's the rhythm there somewhere, and the determination to keep that going all your life.
Would you then build, as you say, if you almost have that time in your diary, just like people, whether they're going to yoga, sports clubs or other, it's that regular, even if you almost perhaps sit there and do nothing to start off with, but you actually go into that space on a regular basis. So hopefully that would help to release, I guess, and allow you to explore.
I have a writer friend, George Crane, on Paros, who I will be visiting shortly, and he his rhythm, and he's in his 80s now, is to go into his workshop and begin writing, but it doesn't matter what he writes.
Just to write, the process. He
just puts words down, and then gradually the day's work will come out of that. But initially it's just, and with me it's the same. When I was starting that other canvas, I was just putting marks down. I was just getting into the choreography of making the marks, and of listening, and of physically being so that you're focused.
That's what's interesting. You talk about just putting marks down. Actually, at least you've gone past the stage of I would like to. No, I've done. I've done something.
That's why George does what he does, because
put something down and to get things moving,
and put it down, and that can go for any artistic discipline.
And there's no wrong answer, is there?
No, there's no.
Because it's you.
There's nothing to lose.
It's your ideas. You're not trying to copy someone else. It's what you see and what you want to do.
It's perfect.
And you'll always get people who will be critical, but actually, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter, does it?
It doesn't. Of course. That is something that I try and put across to other people. Is that thing that you've got to be able just to, in terms of painting, just make. It's the mark for me, which I've grown into over the years. The mark as in early nuclear physics terms, the atom, the single brush mark, which builds up the whole. And I think when I look at finished paintings, I'm also looking at however tightly painted they become, I'm looking for the kind of mark that is being made in the detail.
Triggers off almost
and however figurative they might be, it's the abstract mark that makes that up. Listen and then take it in, and then build on that. Yeah, that's important.
Good. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Barry, for your
Thank you
for your time and your
thank you both.
Your canter through actually what is Barry and what's behind Barry and what makes him, how he's inspired to paint besides anything else, and some of the processes. Maybe we do other follow-ups. We'll see how we progress.
And you know, I think that you've been instrumental in that, in actually trying to stimulate me and go inside what I'm doing. Yeah, that's been really helpful for me.
It's a creative process, I think, isn't it?
It is.
That's what
it is. And we can't do without each other.
No.
We cannot.
No, and I think what we hopefully do is part of actually being the means of transmitting what you're doing to a wider audience. You know, we're here to help to same as yourself or others. You know, that's the...
Because definitely I'm not someone who's just painting for myself. It is a way of talking. It's a way of communicating. I really feel that you've tried to get inside me, and that is what it's all about for me.